Welcome to Biography with Plutarch, where we delve into the lives of history's most fascinating figures, seeking to understand the intricacies of their character and the enduring impact of their achievements. Today, we turn our attention to a man whose voice became the clarion call for justice and equality in a tumultuous era, Martin Luther King Jr. This remarkable individual, with his powerful oratory and unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance, left an indelible mark on the fabric of human history. Born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. entered a world where the shadows of segregation and racism loomed large over the lives of African Americans. His birthplace, a handsome two-story house at 501 Auburn Avenue, stood in the heart of the city's African American community, an area teeming with vibrant cultural life and fervent religious devotion. This was the home of Martin Luther King Sr., a Baptist minister, and his wife, Alberta Williams King, a former schoolteacher, who would instill in their son a deep sense of faith, moral responsibility, and intellectual curiosity. As a child, Martin Jr. grew up surrounded by the sounds of gospel music, the smell of traditional Southern cooking, and the comforting presence of his family's close-knit community. His parents, though not wealthy, provided a nurturing environment that encouraged his love for learning and exploration. The King family's home was filled with books, and Martin Jr.'s mother would often read to him from the Bible, instilling in him a strong sense of spirituality and social justice. His father, meanwhile, was a prominent figure in the community, known for his advocacy on behalf of African American rights and his leadership at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. The historical context of Martin Luther King Jr.'s early years was marked by significant events that would shape his character and future path. The Great Depression had left its mark on Atlanta, with many African Americans struggling to make ends meet. The city's rigid segregation laws and discriminatory practices only exacerbated these economic challenges, creating a sense of frustration and injustice among the African American community. It was within this context that Martin Luther King Jr.'s family and community played a crucial role in shaping his early life and worldview. Martin Jr.'s education began at the Young Street Elementary School in Atlanta, where he excelled academically and demonstrated a keen interest in public speaking. He later attended Booker T. Washington High School, where he was exposed to the ideas of prominent African American thinkers and leaders, including W.E.B. Du Bois and George Washington Carver. These influences would have a profound impact on Martin Jr.'s intellectual development and his emerging sense of purpose. The early 1940s saw King pursue further education at Morehouse College in Atlanta, where he studied sociology and began to develop his skills as a public speaker. It was during this period that he became acquainted with the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, whose philosophy of nonviolent resistance would later become a cornerstone of King's own approach to social change. King's time at Morehouse was marked by significant personal growth, as he navigated the challenges of higher education and began to formulate his own vision for a more just and equitable society. As we explore Martin Luther King Jr.'s early life, we find ourselves on the cusp of his entry into the national spotlight. The year 1955 would mark the beginning of his rise to prominence, as he led the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement that would test his mettle as a leader and cement his commitment to nonviolent resistance. The Montgomery bus boycott, which began in 1955, marked a pivotal moment in King's rise to prominence. This courageous stand against racial segregation on public transportation was sparked by the arrest of Rosa Parks, an African American woman who refused to give up her seat to a white person. King, then just 26 years old, was chosen to lead the boycott, and his powerful oratory and strategic thinking played a crucial role in its success. For 381 days, African Americans in Montgomery carpooled, walked, and used other forms of alternative transportation, demonstrating their determination to challenge the unjust system. The boycott's ultimate victory, with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional, propelled King onto the national stage. His leadership during this period earned him widespread recognition and admiration, as well as numerous awards, including the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. However, it also made him a target for violent retaliation, and he faced numerous death threats, bombings, and assaults throughout his life. One of the most significant events in King's career was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, which took place on August 28, 1963. This landmark event, where King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, drew hundreds of thousands of people to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The speech, with its powerful imagery and soaring rhetoric, cemented King's status as a master orator and a champion of human rights. His call for racial equality, economic justice, and an end to segregation resonated deeply with Americans from all walks of life. King's commitment to nonviolent resistance was tested time and again as he faced violent opposition from those who sought to maintain the status quo. The Birmingham Campaign, which took place in 1963, was a particularly notable example of this. Despite being arrested and jailed, King continued to advocate for peaceful protest, using his time behind bars to write his influential letter from Birmingham jail. This powerful document, with its eloquent defense of civil disobedience and its scathing critique of racial injustice, has become a classic of American literature. Throughout the 1960s, King played a leading role in numerous other campaigns and initiatives, including the Selma to Montgomery marches and the Chicago open housing movement. His tireless advocacy for voting rights, affordable housing, and economic empowerment helped to galvanize a generation of activists and community leaders. Despite facing intense criticism and opposition from some quarters, King remained steadfast in his commitment to nonviolent resistance, believing that this approach was the most effective way to bring about lasting social change. The late 1960s were a time of great turmoil and transformation in American society. The Vietnam War was escalating, and the country was torn apart by protests and social unrest. King, who had always been a vocal critic of war and violence, found himself at the forefront of the anti-war movement. In 1967, he delivered a powerful speech, Beyond Vietnam, in which he condemned the war and called for an end to American involvement. Despite facing intense criticism from some quarters, including the Johnson administration and some civil rights leaders, King remained committed to his principles of nonviolent resistance and social justice. He continued to advocate for the rights of African Americans, while also speaking out against poverty, inequality, and militarism. One of the most significant initiatives of King's later years was the Poor People's Campaign, which he launched in 1968. This ambitious effort aimed to bring together people from all walks of life to demand economic justice and human rights for the nation's most vulnerable citizens. The campaign culminated in a massive protest in Washington, D.C., where thousands of people gathered to demand action from the government. Tragically, King's life was cut short by an assassin's bullet on April 4, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was just 39 years old. The news of his death sent shockwaves around the world and sparked widespread riots and protests across America. However, even in death, King's legacy continued to inspire and motivate people to work towards a more just and equitable society. In the years following King's assassination, his wife Coretta Scott King played a crucial role in preserving his legacy and continuing his work. She established the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, Georgia, which became a hub for civil rights activism and education. The center also housed King's papers and archives, providing a valuable resource for scholars and researchers. Today, Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy extends far beyond the civil rights movement. In the words of King himself, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's all for today's biography with Plutarch. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that understanding the lives of remarkable individuals helps us better understand ourselves.